The same fault that triggered Japan's deadliest modern earthquake just ruptured again. Monday, April 20th. Off the coast of Iwate, a magnitude 7.7 on the exact same subduction zone as 2011, and the Japan Meteorological Agency has now issued a megaquake advisory. Here's what JMA and USGS confirmed in the last 24 hours, and what could come next. This is not a distant news story. 172,000 people were ordered to evacuate on Monday alone. Families in Iwate, Aomori, Miyagi, Fukushima, and Hokkaido, all scrambling for higher ground. Ships abandoned Hachinohe port as sirens blared across the entire Sanriku coast. The Japan Meteorological Agency confirms this quake struck the Sanriku-Oki subduction zone, the same fault that, in March 2011, produced a magnitude 9 megaquake and killed nearly 20,000 people. But that's not what has scientists on edge right now. The probability of a magnitude 8 or stronger earthquake in the next 7 days just jumped 10 times higher than normal. 1%, up from 1/10%. And that advisory covers 182 towns and cities, from China to Hokkaido. This is not over. At 4:53 p.m. local time on April 20th, the seafloor moved 100 kilometers off the coast of Miyako, Iwate Prefecture. The rupture hit 35 kilometers below the ocean floor, confirmed by the U.S. Geological Survey. That's shallow, dangerously shallow. Shallow ruptures push entire columns of seawater upward in seconds. The Japan Meteorological Agency logged it at magnitude 7.7. USGS independently confirmed 7.4. The gap between those numbers matters less than what both agencies agreed on. This was the Sanriku-Oki subduction zone. The same tectonic scar. The same locked boundary that snapped catastrophically on March 11, 2011. In Tokyo, 400 kilometers to the south, buildings rolled for 7 full minutes. Not shaking. Rolling. Like standing inside a slow, enormous wave with no end. NHK broadcasted, "Tsunami, evacuate," across every screen in the country within minutes. Loudspeakers in coastal towns, Ofunato, Kuji, Miyako, blaring simultaneously. Evacuate immediately. Do not return until the warning is lifted. JMA immediately issued a 3-meter tsunami warning for Iwate, Aomori, and parts of Hokkaido. But here's where it gets strange. The waves that actually arrived were far smaller than the warning. 80 centimeters at Kuji Port, 40 centimeters at Miyako. The 3 meters never came, but that smaller number isn't reassuring. It's a reminder. In 2011, early warnings predicted 3-meter waves for Miyagi. The actual waves exceeded 40 meters in some coastal valleys. Waves traveled 10 kilometers inland in the Sendai area. Officials this time chose not to wait and find out. 172,000 people moved before the first wave arrived. That decision, based on hard lessons, likely saved lives. USGS data shows the epicenter sat in nearly identical geometry to 2011's rupture zone. Monday's earthquake released roughly 200 times less energy than the 2011 event, but it fractured the same locked plate boundary. That boundary has been silently reloading stress since the day the 2011 disaster ended. To understand what that means, you need to understand what this fault actually is. Here, the Pacific Plate dives beneath the Okhotsk Plate at roughly 8 centimeters per year. That's about the rate your fingernails grow. Slow, constant, unstoppable. Over decades, the locked zone builds energy like a compressed spring. When it snaps, it releases everything at once. In 2011, that release lasted approximately 6 minutes of continuous rupture. The seafloor near the epicenter lurched an estimated 30 meters eastward in a single motion. The entire island of Honshu shifted 2.5 meters east. And that wasn't even the most alarming part of Monday. Because while evacuation orders were still being issued, JMA officials walked into a press conference. And what they announced next is why this story is bigger than one earthquake. JMA's Megaquake advisory now covers 182 municipalities across 7 prefectures. That's the entire Pacific coast of northeastern Japan. Residents of Kuji, Miyako, Ofunato, and Kamaishi in Iwate Prefecture face the highest alert levels. These cities sit on the exact coastline that was destroyed in 2011. Some of them were rebuilt only within the last decade. In Aomori, Hachinohe Port recorded a 30-centimeter wave. Evacuation orders went to coastal neighborhoods immediately. In Miyagi, the city of Sendai, one of northern Japan's largest, shook at intensity 5 on Japan's national scale. Strong enough to topple items from shelves, strong enough to send people running for exits. Japan's Fire and Disaster Management Agency confirmed 200 power outages across the affected prefectures. The Tohoku Shinkansen shut down completely Monday evening. Engineers walked the entire line before service partially resumed Tuesday morning. JMA's advisory runs until Monday, April 27th, at 5 p.m. Japan Standard Time. That's a full 7 days where the agency itself is saying a magnitude 8 or larger quake is possible. For the next 168 hours, a region of tens of millions of people lives under that possibility. Here's why scientists aren't just watching Monday's quake. They're watching a pattern. This is the third time in less than 2 years Japan has triggered a megaquake advisory. The first, August 2024. A magnitude 7.1 earthquake struck near the Hyuga Sea. JMA issued the first ever megaquake advisory under their current warning system. The word megaquake appeared in official government communications for the first time. The second, December 2025. A magnitude 7.5 earthquake struck off Aomori. Another advisory. Another week of heightened alert. More than 40 people injured. No major damage. But the pattern was forming. Now, April 20th, 2026. Third advisory. Same fault region, same warning level. Watch what happens next, because this pattern connects to something much larger. Japan sits at the collision of 4 tectonic plates: the Pacific, the Philippine Sea, the Eurasian, and the North American. That convergence makes Japan account for nearly 20% of all magnitude 6 or larger earthquakes worldwide, 1 in 5 major quakes on Earth and in one country. But the fault that is keeping seismologists up at night isn't even the Sanriku zone. It's the Nankai Trough. The Nankai Trough is an 800-kilometer undersea trench running along Japan's southern Pacific coast. It's a different fault from Monday's earthquake, but it operates in the same tectonic system. And Japan's Earthquake Research Committee, the government's official scientific panel, has set the probability of a Nankai megaquake at 60 to 90% within the next 30 years, or higher. Panel Chief Naoshi Hirata, professor emeritus at the University of Tokyo, stated last September, "The reality remains that a major quake could occur at any time." That wasn't a lecture, that was an official government press release. Japan's own government modeling says a Nankai megaquake could kill up to 298,000 people. Economic damage, up to $2 trillion. Tsunami waves, up to 10 meters in height. Here's why this matters right now. The last confirmed Nankai Trough megaquake struck in 1946. That's 80 years ago. The historical interval between Nankai events is 100 to 150 years. We are inside that window. At least 9 Nankai megaquakes have struck since 684 CE. They don't follow a schedule, but the historical record shows they always come. Here is the official picture for the next 7 days. JMA's Megaquake Advisory remains active until April 27th at 5 p.m. Japan Standard Time. During that window, JMA says the chance of a magnitude 8 or stronger quake is 10 times the baseline. That still means a 99% chance nothing catastrophic occurs this week. But the 1% possibility is a quake that could rank among the most destructive earthquakes ever recorded. 3 concrete things to watch in the coming days. First, the aftershock sequence along the Sanriku coast. JMA says smaller quakes are likely throughout this advisory period. If magnitudes in the aftershock sequence begin climbing rather than declining, that changes the threat picture significantly. Second, deformation data from Japan's ground monitoring network. Japan runs one of the densest GPS sensor grids on Earth. Any sudden horizontal or vertical movement near the epicenter would be an early signal of renewed stress loading in the crust. Third, the Nankai Trough. Monday's quake hit a different fault. But regional stress transfer, where one rupture increases pressure on a neighboring system, is a documented seismic phenomenon. Some researchers believe sustained activity in the Tohoku region can influence stress loading on the Nankai system. That connection remains actively debated in the scientific community. But it is being watched. If the aftershock sequence stays below magnitude 6 and no new ground deformation is detected, scientists expect the advisory to expire on schedule with no further major events. That's the most likely outcome. But the worst-case scenario, drawn directly from JMA's own modeling, looks like this. If a magnitude 8 or larger rupture occurs along the Japan Trench in the next 7 days, tsunami modeling shows waves could reach coastal communities in Iwate and Aomori within 5 to 10 minutes. That is not enough time to drive. it is barely enough time to run. After 2011, Japan redesigned its entire coastal evacuation system from the ground up. New seawalls, new evacuation towers. Alert times cut to under 2 minutes. The number you're about to see is something even international disaster engineers found hard to believe. Japan has constructed tsunami evacuation towers up to 22 meters tall along this coast. 22 meters. The height of a 7-story building. They built them that tall because the waves they are preparing for could top that. JMA officials are urging coastal residents one message right now. Know your evacuation route before sirens go off, not after. 3 things to take from this video. 1. On April 20th, 2026, a magnitude 7.7 earthquake struck the Sanriku-Oki Fault, confirmed by the Japan Meteorological Agency, the same system that produced the 2011 disaster and nearly 20,000 deaths. 2. JMA has now issued 3 megaquake advisories in under 2 years. The probability of a magnitude 8 or larger quake in the next 7 days is officially 10 times above baseline. That advisory runs through April 27th. 3. Japan's government-commissioned modeling puts a future Nankai Trough megaquake at up to 298,000 deaths and $2 trillion in damage. Scientists place the 30-year probability at 60 to 90% or higher. They're already building 7-story tsunami towers because they believe this event is coming. If you want to stay ahead of what's happening to Earth in real time, subscribe. I post every time something major hits. Coming next, the Nankai Trough. The 800-kilometer underwater fault Japan's own government calls its greatest geological threat, and what the 80-year countdown means for the 30 million people who live in its path. That video is on the screen right now. Watch it before the next advisory drops. Stay safe.